But
I had the opposite problem. Like, okay, what I was wearing was really uncomfortable, so I changed my clothes before I got here. It is something really comfortable.
I'm still in my work boots and my work pants and everything, but I got a different shirt on.
Well, hey, it's not all covered in work
So
stuff,
did we.
right?
Yeah, this one today was bad. There's tar all over it. I was like, I can't go like this.
I have the opposite problem on that. I just want to be comfortable in the
We
evening.
floated Baker's Bridge.
Trying to change softer water.
That's
granola bar.
days I try to make sure I have the most comfortable things on.
20-inch.
I had McDonald's for breakfast. That's how I was like,
I sit at a desk all day.
you don't stop. That was required, like my husband pulled over, like letting me stretch my legs. The only time we stopped, she threatened to pee my pants. That might affect the seat in his truck.
Happy with this.
And he's like, ah.
She looked pinker, so that was good.
Good,
That was a plus.
Right?
good. There's always just something so comforting about going home and looking them
Seeing?
in the eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Where's the rest of our board?
She's just really struggling to get over it, you know? Just like,
Well, it's kind of like, trauma,
yeah, it's complete trauma.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then this time the pacemaker they put in, it's huge. Like, you can see it out of her chest. Like,
Wow.
it's so big. And she's tiny too.
Oh,
So,
Where's the other
you
one?
know, she doesn't have any like fat to cover it up with.
that's gotta be tender.
Oh, okay. It's gotta hurt.
Oh,
It's gotta hurt.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Ready? All right. It is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 at 6:30. I call this budget work session to order.
It's 5:30.
It's 5:30.
Just want to make sure.
It's 5:30.
We're just practicing.
It's 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time,
Daylight savings time.
daylight savings time. All right, now that we got that established. We're here to talk about the labor organizational chart, the 2024 labor budget, and salary surveys. Would you like to start? Or
Sure. So the directors put these goals together actually in June. So we've had them for a while. I just wanted to make sure that when you're looking at them, that is going to play into basically what the budget looks like, whether it's operations, capital improvement, or labor. So just wanted to make sure that you had that again in this packet, especially you're going to probably see repeats of all of this stuff for the directors. And from my understanding, the board's actual goals will come after you have a work session with Patrick Rondinelli. I'll just keep moving on unless
I was going to say, do you want to just keep moving on, or should I announce them?
it's up to you.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So during the budget season, we adopt specific items, and in this case, we adopt an org chart. The org chart goes into the budget, and of course, that's kind of a snapshot of everything going the day that we adopt the budget. And of course, this last one was adopted the 21st of November. So as things change, the positions may change, and people may change, but it's always good to have a snapshot of where you are and what you budgeted for at that time. So that's the org chart, and at the time, I know that Chief is on Zoom. He was going to ask for a sergeant, and he's decided. He's decided basically to maybe remove that for now, maybe come back in 2026. And then his goal would be to make sure that we raise salaries for the current officers and staff. So that's his focus right now. So the next page, the budgeted labor expenditures for 2024. In that document, you'll see the current year, and the current year, when we adopted this, was 2023. And then off to the left is the budget year. So the budget year would be 2024. And you'll see that there were some changes. There was about $300,000 in changes for labor. And also across the board, you'll see that some of those changes in health insurance. And then when we did some reorganization, that also added some additional money to what we call resources and recreation. And you'll see in 2023, there was nothing budgeted for that, nor the senior center, because that was all in the admin for town hall. But now that it's moved out and separated for the next budget, you'll see that there was actually a budget for 2024 and then any changes for 2025. This is the way the 2025 budget will look when we kind of have the discussion about salaries here in a little bit. The next item is the employee benefits and health insurance. We give this to every potential employee, and we give it to, and obviously we send out new ones to every current employee. We're hoping to do a lot of that, more of that digital. I think sometimes employees forget what they have access to. The one thing they do have access to is a Common Spirit Employee Assistance Program, which we just want to make sure that we have those links so that they can get that. There's life insurance that is not provided by the town, but the employees can actually sign up for that if they like through PARA. We also have voluntary AFLAC coverages available. So we also have the trustees, non-exempt full-time employees, and law enforcement. So we have kind of a whole gamut of really whatever category you fall in. These are the benefits that you would receive. It's always helpful to have this documented and make sure that all the employees have that as well. So then the health insurance, which is kind of at the end of that employee benefits, shows you in 2024 how we were going to, the town was going to pay for health insurance. So, sorry, this is no longer a draft, it is the final. I think it was still draft in October 10th of 2023. But if you go all the way across to the right side underneath the big draft letters, it shows that the employee, the town would pay the same amount for an employee in an OAP, open access plan, or for an HSA. And an HSA, that would include $50 a month that's paid by the town into an HSA eligible account. So we wanted to make sure that they were equal, and then the employee can decide if they would like a higher deductible, which an HSA is, or a lower deductible, which is an open access plan. So they have choices, but the town still pays the same amount for either single employee, for employee plus spouse, employee plus children, or employee plus family. And then part-time employees, the town picks up the employees' share just like they would for a full-time employee, but that we do not pick up anything for family or children. However, the employee can determine or decide to add that, and they would pay that out of pocket. And the last thing I have is, we'll turn that over to Marie regarding the 2023 salary survey that she's put together.
Good evening. All right, we're going to see if we can do this.
It doesn't like to stay up.
Okay.
It's old.
It's
Should I
meant
just
for
hold
short
it?
people only.
I'll hold it. Okay, so I'm going to go over with you the 2023 salary survey, also the proposed salary wage scales, as well as the memo. And I'd like to walk you through it, if that's okay. I do want to be as transparent as I can. So if you would like any documents and you don't see them in here, please let me know that I can send them to you so you have that information and can make the best decision. I do want to start just kind of providing some background information on starting off with why are we here and having this discussion. I think first off, as you will see as we get into the salary survey, you will see that we are below what industry is paying Colorado, smaller towns, as well as our Southwest region. And I think part of that is because of COLA increases. If we will look at, actually I'm going to read it to you. Based upon Social Security's COLA for the past 5 years, 2023, there was an 8.7% COLA increase. 2022 was 5.9. 2021 is 1.3. 2020 is 1.6. And 2019 is 2.8 for a total of 19.3% increase over the past 5 years, which does not include 2024 yet. Okay? Also looking at the U.S. inflation calculator, 2023 was 4.1, 2022 was 8.0, 2021 4.7, 2020 1.2, and 2019 is 1.8. So that is a 19.8% COLA increase over the past 5 years. And Katie, can I ask you, how many COLA increase were there given to staff in the past 5
So
years?
2021, there was not a COLA increase. In 2022 and 2023 and 2024, there was a COLA increase. And I believe they were all 5% or less.
Okay, all right. And so was it for all staff or just partly staff?
It was part staff.
Okay.
So Public Works, Police Department, probably more than anything.
Okay, all right. So if we say maybe 20% increase, Town of Bayfield has given staff, I'd say 10% COLA increase, 10 to 15% COLA increase over the past 5 years. So kind of where we're at right now, looking at the salary survey, which we'll get into, is that if we had been giving COLA increases every single year, we wouldn't necessarily be behind. COLA increase is a cost of living adjustment. That's not a raise for staff. That's just to keep up with inflation. And I know you see it when you go to the grocery store, when you pay for gas, and housing definitely in our area. So I just want to start that conversation with that as we move forward. Any questions with that? Okay. All right, so now the Town of Bayfield salary survey. We use 2023 data from the Colorado Municipal League. So again, that doesn't account for any increases that were given to 2024 based on COLA or anything else. We didn't use every single position because every single position didn't have an accurate job description or there wasn't enough data. I really wanted to make sure that with the job description and titles, we also had information not just with Denver Front Range data, but data that we can use for like cities like Bayfield. And I'm going to show you that. And then also our Southwest region too. So in the next page, you'll see I did 9 positions.
Tell us what page you're saying with that. Can you just
So I have that page on 28.
Thank you.
It's way past
And
it.
thank you.
I was
on the
way
packet.
past it. I was like, I can't find it.
So I'd say the most important pages of this salary survey is going to be your overall CML data for all of the positions, for the next page, which is small town, as well as the Southwest region. So in each of those pages, you have the titles to the left. You have our current Town of Bayfield average. Then you have the Colorado Municipal League average, our difference, and then the percentage of difference. So overall, when we're looking at Front Range, Denver, all of Colorado, we are 34% below the average within Colorado. For the next one, we have small towns, And for small towns, I'm going to show you in the next couple pages where we're pulling that information from. But these are outside Denver Front Range. So this isn't going to include, cities of 20,000. We're really trying to focus on cities that are under 5,000, maybe on the western slope. And if you see again, town of Bayfield average, small town average, the difference, and then the overall difference is 11% below what other small towns are paying. So we're below 11%. And the last one, which I think is really important, is our Southwest region. Overall, we are 13% below averages for our Southwest region. And again, that includes Pagosa, Ignacio, Durango, and Cortez. Now, if you want all the data, probably more data than you actually want, each position is broken down into the Colorado Municipal League, the small town, and Southwest regions. And then under that, if you see on the continuing pages, it'll tell you where I pulled the data from. So for the finance director, I pulled it from Brush, Granby, Monte Vista, Ouray. It shows you the low and the high and the average. And then for the Southwest, there's Cortez and Durango, and the average for that. I do want to make a note. If you go a few pages further into the town manager position, on the Southwest region, it shows that we're actually paying 4% above the average salary. But I want to show you under the Southwest municipalities, I did not include Durango and Mancos in there because they only gave me one salary, and I want it to be fair. And if they provided a lower salary, I would have included it, but it would have completely skewed the data. So for Durango, 234, that was their top salary. Again, if they included that lower amount, I think we would have been low. Any questions on the rest of this salary?
I do have one question on the
Sure.
ones where you've got the breakdowns, and you say the current range. Is that your low and high or low and medium?
Low and high, and then the average of those two.
No, I'm asking at the very top of the page where you've listed our range.
Oh, yes,
Is that low and high or low and medium?
low and high.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so we will go to the proposed wage scales. The first wage scales are 2024 wage scale, which obviously shows what we are paying now. So that's entry, midway, and high. We've got a lot of positions on here. I don't think I need to say too much about that because I really want to focus on the other two. So the next one is going to be a proposal of 13% increase. And we talked about the COLA increase. Let's say maybe we still need an increase of 10 to 15%. We have the small town, we're below 11%. And then for our small town, I believe we're below 13%. And then for Southwest region, it's 11%. So if we take an average of all that, I'm actually going to aim a little low and say 10% increase for staff. So the 13% increase includes a 10% increase for staff. Whether that's, if you want to call that COLA, you can do that. I don't really think this is going to be a merit increase for any of the staff, but a 10% increase for all staff. It also includes a 3% merit rate for staff. We have some staff that are at the top of their pay scale. So when they get a merit increase, when they get a COLA increase, if the wage scale doesn't change, they won't get that increase. So, which is not good for retaining employees. So this 13% increase will help us to be more competitive in our area. but still a little low, but much better than we are now. The next proposal would be an 8% increase. That includes a 5% increase for all staff, as well as the 3% increase for any merit or certifications for that staff. That increase would still be below our competition, especially when we're talking about our Southwest region as well. Any questions on those?
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that there's going to be two adjustments. One, to set it up to be cost of living, make the adjustment because we haven't been meeting those increases every year. And then on top of that, we need to do an additional 10 or 8% increase to bring everybody up to standard. Is that right?
So
the way that this reads.
Okay, so you're talking about the 13% increase?
I'm talking about the way you've got it broken down. So you've got either a 13% and an 8%, and including a 3% adjustable for merit increases, or the overall 10% or 5% increase for all staff. So
I'm proposing two different options.
I thought that was
Okay.
correct. I just wanted
Two
to make sure.
options.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so what you're proposing is either the 13% increase or the 8% increase?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Katie, can you tell me why the town didn't keep up with cost of living?
I think in 2021, we were still in the pandemic, and we were not aware of what that was going to do to our economics, our town. You know, there's a lot of unknown as we were going through the 2021 budget through 2020. And so that's probably why there was not a COLA. Now, there was a merit, but not a COLA in 2021. In 2022, we upped it a little bit. There was, I think there was a small COLA and a small merit, probably amounted no more than 5%. Keep in mind that COLA is to everybody. Merit is only if you're doing your job at that rate. 2023, I think we did take a bigger jump, especially for police officers and public works. Also, there were some position changes as well in 2023. And then by the time we got to 2024, as what I remember, it was 5% COLA, 3% COLA and 5% merit. But that's still low. And
Well, I think just looking at the numbers, you know, without a competitive salary, our retention has been low. And then retaining, or not retaining, but just trying to get quality, especially leaders, not that, you know, your support staff isn't equally as important. So I guess I'll wait. I have other questions, but I'll wait if you've got more.
The only thing I was talking about the memo, but it's kind of just an overview of
Okay.
what I went through. So you can go ahead and ask
Okay.
your question.
So I was just kind of curious, and I kind of wish that, and maybe it was based on the information you were provided when you requested it from the different towns. But it would have been nice if we could have had comparisons for all of the director roles that would have included the exact same towns, and towns that really fit with our population, and kind of also our sales tax because of our revenue. So it made it a little hard for me to do an analysis. But what I landed on is Bayfield is comparable to Brush in population, also in sales tax income, and Pagosa, probably the closest, and Granby. And Granby's kind of skewed because the average income is $97,000 for their medium income. And then I looked at the overall budget of revenue that these different cities pulled in, and it appears that Bayfield's pretty much right in the middle, and this is just a general statement, so not into the nuts and bolts, but it looks like Bayfield's budget averages about 17 million in revenue. Granby is at 23, Monte Vista is at 13. So kind of just looking at revenue, because in real terms, where are we going to get the money to pay our people? Now, that is not to say that I'm opposed to this at all. I feel like they deserve a wage increase, and especially based on the performance I've witnessed by our staff. So I'm just curious, maybe Katie, you might be able to speak to that, like how we sort of assess the town's revenue and the ability to do this.
So we're always looking at what's competing for our employees. And so what's competing for our employees is in Southwest Colorado. And they're going to go to work where it's best for them, not necessarily, the thing is that we're running a sewer plant or running a water plant. We may have a different set of police department issues than some of the other communities. So there's all kinds of different options for no matter where you go. This is always a challenge to do a salary survey. From my understanding, Town Clerk Cathcart used to basically just call all the towns around and say, "What are you paying such and such?" and figure out what that is. I don't know if she's shaking her head or saying, "No, I didn't do that."
Yes, she is. She's affirming.
Yeah. And so it's a challenge. Employers Council, we are also their client as well, and they also have job descriptions and salary surveys as well. And now you're competing with those that can operate a backhoe and operate equipment. And yeah, they may be in the water plant, but they also have other skills that we need as far as the CDL and other things. So we're not just competing with local governments or towns or counties, we're competing with all kinds of other employers as well. Administrative assistant, there's a lot of people hiring administrative assistants out there as well. So, you don't have to work for a government to be in that type of position.
I also think it's actually pretty good that you chose to also highlight our Southwest municipalities, because the people that live in this area are who we're competing against directly. So to me, you have to look at the bigger picture of our area and those other small communities that they included. So I appreciate that, because even though they gave us the one amounts for Mancos and Durango, I'm going to pretty much figure that's what they're paying their town manager when I look at those numbers. So if I looked at that and looked at our area, it's actually, I did the numbers, it was about 141,000 is what the average would be of those local municipalities if you added those two back in. I don't know, I appreciate how you did this. It actually made a lot of sense to me. But I see your point as well.
Yeah. And it's really, I don't think that you can just look at salaries. It's like you said,
What
it's
does
the
that
big
job-
picture.
I mean, Durango's completely different in how they function than we are, and I'm sure that Mancos is as well. I mean, do they do the same things that Jeremy does? I mean,
Well, and I understand the competition for quality
Right.
employees, but, when I looked at Durango, their total revenue is $51 million. So in real terms, you pay people commensurate for, one, the job, but also what the budget will allow
yeah,
for.
but you have to think about, Durango also has way more support staff for those town managers than we have for our town
Yeah,
managers.
there's 3 assistant
Yeah, exactly.
city managers.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you add all that into the scenario, it's completely
Yeah.
different. I will say that I feel like Bayfield has always been the place where we train them, and then they steal them from us. That's been on our police force, that's been our town staff, and over the last few years that I've been on the town board, we've tried adding some additional things as far as paid time off and extra holiday stuff and hours to make it more attractive to them and want to come and be here. So, that's one of the things that I'm glad you put that in there as well, is, kind of a list of, I saw it, I don't know where I saw it, a list of, I saw it earlier. I don't remember where I saw it, might be in the regular packet, but a list of benefits. I think it's on a different page.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the benefits are on page 23 is where they start.
Thank you. So I appreciate that you added that as well, because that plays a part in when we think about the overall picture, what we're giving them as well. Benefits here are good.
So wrapped in some of what you were saying, weren't you asking how we're going to pay for this?
I just, yes and no. So I
Okay.
was just curious about
Yeah.
the
'cause-
reality of it, so.
So, kind of the process that I've experienced since I've been here is that they present this information to us, and then they'll provide us a budget that we can then, when we look at the actual budgeting that they provide us,
Got it.
then we can say, okay.
They have a
that-
plan.
Exactly. And we can say, okay, well, we want the 10% if the budget works. But if the budget doesn't work, we want to do a 5%, that's up to us to make that choice.
So Marie, what's our current average retention? Like how long, and maybe you don't have that from the CML website, what's the average retention of a town employee and where we're pacing?
I will have to get back to you on that.
Yeah,
but
I
I
just
can-
was-
Yeah,
That's
look
one
at
of the
that.
things. And,
Oh.
and the other thing too, both of Brenna's and Kat's point is that there is, it's great that we have the towns to compare to, but I was talking to Katie this morning, and coming up with descriptions that match is a very challenging thing. Just looking at where we're most off in our salaries, just looking at your charts, line items. I don't have it pulled up right this minute, but there are a couple in there that probably don't line up. We don't have a director of recreation.
Right.
And that one's way off, so that's skewing our average a little bit. And also, our finance director is somebody who's been rolled up, with all due respect.
Right, so somebody like
so
that'll be on the lower side
would be a
of the
little
scale,
different
yeah.
than somebody coming in with, 25 years of town accounting.
Sure. So let me address the job description. So I can provide you the 374 pages of the data. Within there is job descriptions. Now, I'm going to tell you these job descriptions are very general. They're like 5 lines. So, yes, do we want to match job descriptions? Completely. I hear you on that. And then, being small staff, right? Our staff are doing 2 or 3 jobs. So I actually emailed the HR listserv for the Colorado Municipal League today, kind of asking this question is, we're doing a salary survey, but we've got different job descriptions. How do we come up with an accurate salary, right, for these staffs? So City of Evans said, well, they just kind of look at percentage of job descriptions. So for example, Dustin could be 70% deputy clerk. He could be 30% recreation. Okay, I don't know exactly. So, but just an example. So we could do a percentage. They didn't give the salary part, so what that looks like. City of Eagle said again, you're going to break out the job descriptions, pick the job descriptions. So again, if it's 40% for this position, 60% for this position, then you would pay them the higher percentage of that matching of the job description. Edgewater, City of Edgewater said they also, if there's combined titles and job descriptions, they say you pay at the higher salary of whichever title that is. So that's just an example, some examples on that. So it's not perfect, but it's an idea.
Some of my thoughts on that too is that they could go to the place that doesn't have that, that's in our region, i.e. Durango, and not have to do multiple jobs and get paid better. So we have to think about, not only are we in line with the pay, but is it enough to make sure that we don't have them jumping ship to, someplace else where they could actually do an easier job. I work for a smaller bank versus a large bank, and I see it every day. The knowledge that's needed is way more at a smaller bank than it is at a larger bank because they compartmentalize things a lot better. So they get paid better because they have more money, and then they don't have to do as much. They don't have to be as knowledgeable. So it makes it hard for us in smaller communities to keep
Cross-train
employees.
and,
Yeah.
Well, I think the most concerning thing is how far we are behind with the cost of living increases. That's troubling to me, that we're that far behind. And I just, fundamentally, it doesn't seem right that we would include Durango or Cortez. I mean, Durango just within the city has nearly 20,000 people. We can't compete with that. We just can't. And then Cortez would be the next highest at almost 10,000. We're right at 2,900. So, there's a balancing act between kind of where the money comes from, right? When you've got more people, more tourism, more opportunities to make money for your town, so you can pay your employees commensurate of what they're worth. So, it seems to me, just looking over all this data, and I'm not leaning into the CML for Southwest. I'm leaning more into small towns because that feels more aligned with what's realistic for us as a small town. It feels fair to me that 13 or 8% increase, whichever the budget will allow for, feels right to me, just comparing all of this data. I mean, in all truth, I wish we could bump them all up by 19%.
Right, I don't think that's possible.
No,
And I
it's
think
not.
that's some of the things we talked about in the past too, was that, you have to stay within budget, what
Correct.
our budgetary means. And so that's why we kind of tried to add some additional benefits to them in addition to the pay, which helped. But that's probably also why we didn't see as much movement as we would like. as well.
Probably one other question I would ask. I know we're not fully staffed in every department. So how does this is kind of based on current staff, or does that take into consideration the additional staff we need to hire?
We just hired 2 new staff for Public Works.
But not to increase, we're not increasing our team.
Okay.
So I think we may be hiring people, but we have not
We're just
increased the team,
replacing.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. And is there a need for additional staff besides your baseline? I
Yes.
mean, well, in real terms,
So I think for a couple of years, we've talked about getting an intern or basically somebody to do some of the, I don't want to call grunt work, but some of the work that we need in town hall. We got Kristen, and we've given her every job we can imagine because everything we give her, gets done. But, I think the police chief would like his assistant back from time to time to assist with their department as well. So, looking at another part-time, but it would be probably just temporary or part-time without any benefits would be something we would look at.
I was just wondering with this wage increase, if we were calculating the fact that we had to add additional staff, not come up to our standard that we need to operate right now, but, a need to hire someone
So the
else.
one thing that has always been the catch-22 is health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about the time we think we've got everything figured out, health insurance either is huge increase, or like last year, like, oh, it wasn't as much as we expected. So we made some adjustments. You may remember that we were looking at cutting all kinds of expenses from the general fund, from other fund.
Yes.
And when the health insurance came back, we said, oh, okay, we can go back to full operations that we had done in 2023.
Gotcha.
So, you know, those are things and we don't really get a quote until about the end of September or October if we're lucky.
Okay.
And just one comment I get it that Durango, there's more people there, but those are the people we're really trying to actively recruit to come work here for the town of Bayfield. So we just recruited 2 people from Durango, from Durango. So, and I think most of them live here, right? So they're living here, traveling to Durango to go to work. So if we can offer a salary for them so they stay here, work here, that's what we want to do. I mean, in those interviews, right, they're talking about, this is my community, you know, I want to give back. And so that's exciting, right? You want to hire people that value your team, value your community. So just something else to think about.
I think I'm with Kat with the 10 and 3, the 13%, if the budget allows. And if not, we'd have to go back down to the 5.
So typically what I've done is put a percentage that you've just decided plus the second option. I think last year we did 3 different options last year because not knowing what health insurance was. And then after we got our health insurance quote, we're like, oh, we're okay. And you may remember we also got a credit back as well. So, you know, hopefully our healthy, you know, keeping our employees healthy also helps that cost as well.
Anything else?
So I just want to make sure that when you're looking at that health insurance sheet, that typically we expect about a 10% increase. And so I think I kind of need to take a look at it, because the thing is that in some cases, a 10% increase, you know, does the employee pick up their 10%? Does the town pick up our 10%? You know, how do you see that happening if we get, you know, maybe this year will be a little bit less conservative and be 5% change, but do you want, you know, the thing is that this is the complaint I hear. I got a raise, but then the health insurance took more of my money anyway. So.
Well, I think it should be split. Like we pay what percentage do we pay now of the health?
We don't necessarily pay a percentage. We actually just pay
A flat
a
fee.
flat certain amount for each employee. We do not, the town used to cover the employee and the spouse at the same rate. Now the town covers half of what the spouse, and so there's some changes to make sure
Yeah.
that children are covered, and the spouse may have insurance at their employment.
Right.
I'm
And that's how you keep that cost down. Because if you had a percentage, then it makes it harder, right?
Right.
I'd like to see the budget to say which way I would go. It would depend on how the numbers came out.
I think like you do the options on the increase, let's do options on the insurance as well.
So 8% and 13%, those two the only two you want?
Well, with the knowledge that I have right now.
Right.
As it's presented, I mean,
Right.
again.
I mean, if the
if-
budget was really, really bad and the insurance goes up exponentially, then, you know, that
Maybe
could
there's a lower
be.
option.
Yeah.
If it's
maybe-
crazy bad.
Yeah.
That's a no choice option.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to see it all laid out. Once
Yeah,
we get there,
With
you
the
know,
information we have at the moment, I think those are 2 good options to see.
Starting places.
But I mean, if it's, maybe it comes back and it's great and we can do the higher one and everybody's happy and we get to move on from it, but if it comes back and it's bad budget.
I will say that if we can do the 10% COLA and the insurance comes back and it's higher, then maybe we might want to consider a lower percentage on the insurance that the town pays. Because I think the COLA is more important
Yes.
on that level because,
It gives people choices too.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
individual
Yeah,
families.
a lot of times families, have dual insurance. A lot of times, not always, but
Mhm. Yep.
they may have more than one choice to go with.
Well, thank you for all your questions. Let me know
Thanks
if
for
you
all your
need
work on
anything.
that.
Thank you.
That
Yep.
was a lot of work.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, this meeting is adjourned at 6:14 PM.
Is that right on time? Did we do
Whoa.
that? Did we do that one on
Whoa.
time?
Maybe we need to reduce the board size. Just to stay on time. Totally kidding, Michael.
Wow. All right, I'm going to the bathroom.
It's well within your power.
I know. I saw your eyes glit.
It's open to new ideas.